It's time to talk one of my favorite positions on the football field, tight end.
Inside, a beauty, Hall running free, Brees Hall inside the 10, he's gonna score!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to be breaking down my top 5 tight ends in this year's class. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would the New York Jets care about the tight ends? One, Nathaniel Hackett loves using his tight ends, and whether you love them or hate them, as of right now, we only really have 3 tight ends that I super feel comfortable on the roster with. And when you look at guys like CJ Uzama and maybe Tyler Conklin, they might be trade pieces and trade bait in the Aaron Rodgers trade or whatever it is that you're looking at, or even if you really wanted to, and I don't, Jeremy Ruckert could be in that piece as well. But love him or hate him, Kenny Yeboah right now is only a special teamer, and if you can get better at the tight end position without going crazy, this is the draft to do it. This draft has an insane amount of draftable tight ends, and I mean like guys that I feel really, really good about. So we're going to talk about my top 5 tight ends in this year's class, and we're going to start at the top with tight end out of Notre Dame. Yep, that's right. Michael Mayer, not Dalton Kincaid. What? Yeah, look, I have no doubt that Dalton Kincaid is going to be a fine and excellent NFL tight end. But I do have some concerns about his game, and we'll talk about that. And those are some concerns that I just don't have with Michael Mayer. So let's talk about it. One, Michael Mayer was the premier asset for Notre Dame the last couple of years when you look at the offensive side of the ball and what they've had. They don't really have any premium assets in the run game or in the passing game that you can think of. Michael Mayer was their offense, and when you look at his production, you can see that inflated in his stats. Just 840 yards last year, 809 yards this past year. Like, the guy's insane. 7 touchdowns in 2021, 9 touchdowns in 2022. Again, it just makes a ton of sense. Michael Mayer is one of the best tight ends coming out of college. Now, when you put into that equation the size, the combination of size and speed at 6'4", 265 pounds, he's not the fastest guy. I believe he ran a 4.7 at the combine. It was definitely an area where he can improve. But when you look at his ability to go in line and block, that's the thing that I love about him. He is truly a complete tight end. He's going to be an asset in the passing game. He's going to be an asset on the run, and he fits that mold of all-around tight end. When he's on the field, you have no idea whether or not he's going to be a blocker, whether or not he's going to be a pass catcher, and no matter what he is, you have to account for him. Whether he's blocking early and then sinking out into the flats to dump it off, he has the skill set and the ability to make it, to turn a small play into a chunk play. He's got some, he's got some moves. He can make guys miss, and just absolutely phenomenal there. Now, where can he get better? Well, there's a couple of places that he can get better. I think the main thing that he needs to get better is I think that when you look at his frame, 6'4", 6'5", 265, he might be carrying a little bit too much weight for a tight end. I think you'd want your tight end to be closer to 250, so he could use or even possibly lose 15 pounds. Now, why am I saying that? Well, speed is going to be his real question at the next game. He's not a fast tight end, especially when we look at some of these other tight ends coming out in this class. And if speed is something that's hard to teach to a guy, you either are fast or you aren't. But if you can get him with a track and field coach to teach him how to run properly and how to get as much out of his lower half as possible, and then you could also have him shed anywhere from 5 to 15 pounds, you might be looking at, like, legitimately the next George Kittle-esque type of tight end, a guy who can pass, a guy who can catch. Not pass, but he might be able to pass. I don't know. But a guy who can catch, a guy who can block, just the all-around tight end. And that's why I like Michael Mayer more than this number 2 tight end. And we're going Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. Yeah, I don't hate Dalton Kincaid at all. These are the only two tight ends that I have with a first-round grade on them is Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid. I love these two guys, but Dalton Kincaid really reminds me of a Gesicki kind of tight end. He's really only going to be a receiving threat. He doesn't have the size that you like out of a tight end. He might need to put on some weight, and I know that a lot of people just say, "Oh yeah, he could just put on 15 pounds." Like, one, Utah's not dumb. If he could put on 15 pounds, I think that they would have had him put on 15 pounds. But then you start looking at, well, his thing is all speed. That's where he excels. He's a vertical threat, a guy that you can line up out wide as a receiver, essentially. He's like a big wide receiver. Well, if you put on pounds, you're going to lose some of that speed that he provides. But again, he is super willing in the run game. He's not this all-world blocker, even at being underweight at 240 pounds. He is more than willing to block. He just doesn't do it at a really, really high level. Also, he's considered, not considered, he is one of the older prospects in this draft coming out. And before the season starts, he will be 24 years old as a rookie at tight end. Which is just like a little concerning. It's another edge that I give to Michael Mayer, who's still only 21, is going to be 22 when the season starts. But he's good enough that if you really run your tight ends as receivers, if you're really not using them in line and blocking, and you really want just like a big-bodied X receiver, Dalton Kincaid might be the guy that you go to. There is a legitimate thought process in my mind that him transitioning to be a wide receiver at the next level just might be what is the best option for him. Working as a big slot would really do a lot of really good things for his career, because then he could slim down a little bit, get faster, and not have to worry about all those blocking assignments, and really excel at where his game is, which is in the passing game. Moving on to a guy that I really, really like coming out of this year's draft. And again, just tight end university. Sam Laporta out of Iowa. Notre Dame and Iowa just seem to be pushing out tight ends at an exceptional level. And Sam Laporta seems to be the next guy in line to be another one of Iowa's tight ends getting drafted. I have a second-round grade on Sam Laporta. He is my number 3 tight end in this class, obviously. But another guy that is absolutely just fantastic when it comes to being a pass-catching tight end and having that ability. He provides a really, really nice speed for a tight end, running a sub 4.6 40 at the next level. Really understands his his assignment almost too much, in the sense of like when he's running routes. He really tries to run the exact route that's given to him, so he doesn't really diagnose and see like, oh, maybe like I could take this in a yard up. No. If he's asked to run 5 yards and then cut in, he's running 5 yards and then cutting in. So there are offensive coordinators that are going to love that at the next level. And again, another guy that you can split out wide in the slot and be really a good receiving tight end. Now, he has the size and the weight to be an inline blocker at 6'4", 250, which is where you want your tight ends to be. But you do run into the problem where he's not that great of an inline blocker yet. Like lining him up to your right tackle or your left tackle, he doesn't have that part of his game yet, which is a little disappointing when you think of the fact that he's coming out of Iowa. But that being said, Sam is only 22 years old. That's a part of his game that a good tight ends coach should be able to develop. And with his speed and yards after the catch and just what he can do when he has the ball in his hands is well worth it when you look at what he's providing on the back end. So Sam Laporta is tight end number 3. Now we go across the country to Oregon, specifically to Oregon State for Luke Musgrave, my tight end 4. I really, really like Luke Musgrave. 6'6", 250 pounds, 22 and a half years old. And here's the thing that I love about Luke Musgrave is he has something that these other tight ends in this class don't, which is like almost like game-breaking, speed, like top-end speed for tight end. It's insane. At the Senior Bowl, he ran 20 miles per hour, which is just insane. When he gets to his top speed, he does incredibly, incredibly well. At 6'6", he really gives you a catching threat, like a high point, and he's built to be a mismatch against linebackers and safeties, right? Like that's where he's going to be a mismatch. At 6'6", 250 pounds, the guy's just bigger than most tight ends. He's just bigger than most safeties. And when you add that to the fact that he's not sacrificing his size to get that speed, it's phenomenal. Where can he get better? His route running, his blocking. He's really a raw prospect. That's the best way to look at it. The guy isn't ready for the NFL year one. You get a good tight ends coach, though, the guy can be a legitimate tight end. If you have a package with him where you're asking him to run some simple route concepts and then some simple blocking concepts, like, hey, just jam up the end kind of a thing, he has a spot. And I think the longer his career goes in Musgrave, the better he will become. He will, like, there are a lot of players that are really good and they're the best that they can be in years 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, right? Luke Musgrave is kind of not that. Luke Musgrave is going to be his best in his second contract, in my opinion. That's why I have a low second, third round grade for him, because again, he is a project, but he's a project with so much upside that I see the reason why you would take him relatively high. If you don't need a number 1 tight end and you're looking for a number 2 tight end to come into your program that really can help you out, Musgrave makes a ton of sense. I imagine, like, what would the Kansas City Chiefs look like if they had Kelsey and now Musgrave is his heir apparent, right? Now you got these two tight ends who are just insanely athletic, and Kelsey can help bring along Musgrave and all of those things, and you keep a tight end in Kansas City. And tight end number 5 wouldn't be a tight end list if he wasn't on this list, and that's Darnell Washington, the tight end out of Georgia. Now, why did I put tight end in quotes? One, I don't think he's going to be a tight end at the next level. Why? Because he's just enormous. The guy's huge. He is 6'7", 270 pounds. The guy is, like I said, he's just huge. Now, when you look at him and his skill set, he's not really this phenomenal route runner. He doesn't have these fantastic hands or anything like that, but what he does have is just a size advantage over everybody that he's going up against at the tight end position. Linebackers won't be able to cover him. Safeties won't be able to cover him, and that's where he can create most of his production at the next level. It's just that rare combination of size that he has that no one else has at that position. Now, here's the biggest thing that I would say and why I think he should make the transition. And if you're a team, you should draft him and have him make this transition, as I think he should make the transition to offensive tackle. Like, honestly, at 6'7", 270 pounds, if he can put on 30 pounds, which we've seen be done, if you give him his rookie year as a redshirt year and you put him in the weight room and you get him with a dietitian and you start packing on muscle, right? The right kind of weight, get him up to 300 pounds. You can have he is ready to be an offensive tackle at the next level. Legitimately. His blocking skills are insane. He is a 6th member of the offensive line when you get him onto the field. And this is where I have a problem with Darnell Washington, where some others don't, is A lot of people have like, oh, Darnell Washington could go in the first. He could be the first tight end taken. When I look at Darnell Washington, he is very scheme specific. And what I mean by that is you need to have a relatively not cookie cutter, that's a bad word. You have to have a plan for a guy like Darnell Washington, because he's not going to be a receiving threat in a traditional sense that you might think of with a tight end. He's really more of a blocking tight end. And so are you really drafting a tight end just to be a blocker? If you look at the Jets, we paid CJ Uzama a bunch of money to be just a blocking tight end last year, but I think that was more the failures of Mike LaFleur. If you're an offensive coordinator, if you take a guy like a Darnell Washington, you need to take him ready and prepared with a plan. You need to know what you're doing, how you're going to use him, and how to best utilize his rare combination of size that he has at the tight end position. And so, boom. Those are my top 5 tight ends. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of my list. And last but not least, go Jets.